Hello and welcome to episode 23 of the Weighing Room, where today myself, James Mackie, is joined by Frankie Foster and Paul Callaghan as usual. Afternoon, lads. How's the week been?
Oh, good, yeah. Not much to report, my end, to be honest. A steady one.
Well, with no Cheltenham and now we're going into Aintree, it is quiet, isn't it? Like for us, really, with the flat not really starting until the Guineas gets going. We've got a lot to come up, but obviously still racing to cover. So yeah, quiet. Paul, what about yourself?
Yeah, all is good at the end of a long, hard day's graft. So yeah, looking forward to putting my feet up.
So you got a fresh trim as well, I can see, Paul.
Oh yeah, add to Frankie. Scottish National, Grand Nationals coming up. Have to look sharp.
So today we're going to go through all the races live on ITV this weekend, coming up with our selections for the events. So starting with Ayr, with the Scottish Grand National, which is the feature, and then also some races from Newbury, which have Grade 2 action on the card. But the race we're going to start with comes from Ayr in Scotland. It's the 1:15 SCOTTY brand handicap chase over 2 mile and half a furlong. So, lads, this week obviously very tough pickings when we've been through the cards, and this is not an easy race to start with. Frankie, who did you come out with on top in this one?
There's two, which I couldn't decide between. One, Sebastopol, the favourite, and the other, Malistic. If I'm honest, I'm struggling to remember which one I settled on and finally sent to you. That's the story for a lot of these races over the weekend. Malistic, I think, would be the one I'm going to go with. And probably Brian Hughes on board swayed me. There wasn't really much between the two. But I think the form, this Malistic, first chase starters behind Protector Act, really, really smart horse. Then won the next two pretty comfortably into a flat race. And then the last race, I watched that back. When the jockey was unseated, it was going well enough. We didn't really get the full story because there was still a few fences left to jump. But from what I could see in a decent enough race, a Class 2, it was travelling fairly well. So it was between those two. Sebastopol obviously won very well last time out in a lower graded race, but it beat what was in front of it. But Brian Hughes on board up north kind of tipped me over the edge, and a bit more of a price as well with Malistic.
Yeah, Brian Hughes on definitely sways a lot of voters, I think, and has done in your case. So, Paul, who are you looking at in this one?
I did look at Sebastopol, but I just think at the prices, I think he's short enough. I don't think just at that price, I think there's value to be had elsewhere. So for that reason, I've gone for the Rebecca Menzies trained Sow, who wears the hood and the tongue tie, finished 4th to 6. I thought ran quite well at Doncaster last time out. I saw him win at Newbury and Weatherby last season, I think it was. And when he's good, he's very good. Like, he can be a bit highly strung. Nathan Moscrop, he's a horse that Nathan knows really well. He was on board those 2 runs, and he's a horse that will be dropped out. He should get the gallop here. He should get a fast pace to aim at, and I think that'll help him. Whether he's good enough, I'm not so sure, but I think he's a bit of value.
Yeah, I landed on the same horse, Paul. I think Sao, from a betting angle as an each-way player, with 9 or 10 runners in it, around 7 to 1 as we record, I just thought, yeah, if it is his day, he's definitely a horse. If, as you say, maybe not good enough, but if he is on his day, with some of these horses, very similar ability at the prices, I'd like to go with him personally. Now for marker 134, it's only £1 higher than his last winning mark. And I just think this event does produce itself as the way to get back to winning ways. Rebecca Menzies, she's a very good trainer in my eyes. She's got 2 in the race, but I think Sao is the better pick of the 2. And I'm sticking with you with this one. I'm going with Sao as well. So moving over to Newbury for our next race we're going to cover. It's the 1:35 novices handicap hurdle over 2 mile 3 furlongs. Paul, we'll start with you on this. Another tricky one, but who did we land on?
Yeah, this was tricky now, but I'm going to side with the Paul Nicholas trained Rainy Day Woman to bounce back here. She was pulled up in testing conditions at Lingfield. Heavy ground at Lingfield would be pretty heavy when you compare it to maybe somewhere like the likes of Ludlow or indeed Ayr. So prior to that, did complete the hat-trick of victories with 2 wins at Wincanton and 1 at Taunton. Question marks would be, she's had a hard race at Lingfield last time out. How much of a mark, if any, has that left on her? And Harry Cobden once again takes them out. So it's Rainy Day Woman for me to bounce back.
Yeah, Rainy Day Woman was one I definitely looked at. You look at the 2 at the top of the market as well. It was just the factor of will she come back from being pulled up last time after the tough race? But she obviously does hold a lot of ability. But the one I came out down on in this one was Punctuation. At the weights, a younger horse. I just thought definitely got a big chance if running and carrying on the form it has been running to. A decent horse on the flat for trainer Andrew Balding, and the Queen sold and was sent over hurdles this term, where took some time to get the hang of things really, but the penny finally dropped 2 starts ago. Warwick winning a 12-runner novices handicap hurdle, seeing off Saint Docto, who's since gone on to win. Punctuation's also front the form last time out and beating a nice type for Paul Nichols in Irish Hill, over 2 miles at Newbury, giving weight away. Up £8 for that run. As I said, it's still progressing off its marker 114, getting a stone off its closest rivals, I think can go very close, but it's a tough one. Frankie, who did you come down on?
I can't ignore that £7. When Nathan Brennan takes off Surrey Quest, the favourite, it's tricky to side with him, and it's a very competitive race. And given his last 2 runs was 7th and pulled up, it's not exactly too eye-catching on recent form. But if you go back one further, when he won a Class 4, the second horse in that, Mumbo Jumbo, most recently come 4th in a decent enough handicap, a grade 3. So that form doesn't work out too badly. And then you've just got to work on a bit of trust. They've tried this horse in 2, Class 1 grade 2 and a Class 1 grade 3 handicap. They tried it in 2 competitive races. It hasn't worked out. And I feel like they're just kind of chucking the kitchen sink at it a little bit here, stick a claimer on, bring it down in class and try and get this boy to win. I'm hoping that Surrey Quest has maybe just been a little bit outclassed in the races that they have tried him in, and he might be good enough to win this.
See, this is the thing with races like this. There's no surprise to see us all go for 3 different horses, because it's just so picked to pick
I think
from.
there'd be a lot of that throughout Saturday, won't
Oh,
there?
definitely, especially this time of year when the jumps is coming to an end and the flat's starting up, and you don't know how some horses, how they've had a long season and stuff like that. So, yeah, definitely a tough race to pick, but hopefully we found the winner there. So moving back over to Ayr, it's one of the better races across the day, and it's the Novices Champion Handicap Chase over 3 miles. At the top of the market, Nicky Henderson's got Dusart, who looks to be the one to beat in the field. Paul, would you agree with that, or are you looking elsewhere?
Yeah, he does. He is the one on form. Like he was no match for Lum Presse in the Browns advisory when last seen. Again, for the reason that the question mark's over, if at all, if that race has left a mark on him, I'm going to look elsewhere. The Route Jefferson train Sounds Russian wasn't passed over lightly, but it's strange. It's strange. Callum Bewley was on board last time out. I know Brian Hughes would ride a lot for Route, so I don't know why Brian. I know they're pushing his agent and whatnot. They're pushing to get Brian to 200 by the end of the season. So kind of question marks why Brian's not on Sounds Russian. So I've gone for one at a bit of a price here. I'm going to take a chance on IK Brunel, who finished 5th and 9th in an amateur jockeys race at Ludlow last time out, having been dropped out early. Now, if you go back to that run, IK Brunel made up a lot of ground going out on the last circuit, and ultimately he paid the penalty and faded to finish 5th. Prior to that, he was a good winner at Newbury when ridden closer to the pace. Adrian Heskin back on board. If he can jump off handy and hold the position early, I think he could run a big race off a handy weight at 10 stone 8.
Yeah, Ico Brunel, it's been a horse I always found flattered to deceive, bigged up by Ollie Murphy, but has definitely got a race like this in him. And I do think it could be a really good day for the McNeil family. So could kickstart with IK Brunel. Frankie, who did you come down on in this one?
It's tricky, isn't it? There's a lot of these. Dusart's a frustrating one because there's a lot of these horses in this race that have won fairly comfortably last time out, and you're trying to guess as to how much improvement is left in them. Dusart, we know what he's done, and he actually performed pretty well at Cheltenham. So had that race been a little bit further away and we'd had a bit more time between the two, I think I would have been fairly confident to say that form holds strong, and he is the one to beat. The question mark is, has that race took too much out of him? It's down as soft ground on the form books, but it was a horrible day, wasn't it? It was that rainy, horrible day that turned to heavy ground pretty quick. So testing ground over 3 miles, you won't really know, and they might not know till he starts running. But I think I'm going to take a chance with Dusart. The other one I like was Doyenbreed, a bit of form behind 3 under through 5. It was just behind Dusart at Cheltenham, and then also second behind Desi No, who was pretty well fancied at Cheltenham. So Doyenbreed at a bit of a price, but I'm going to take my chances. You know, they're running him. He must be working well enough at home to think he's got a chance. So I think Dusart is the one to beat.
Yeah, I also, going through this race, I also came down on Dusart simply from a class angle. So I think it's a bit of the competition against Dusart's a bit of a nothing. Apart from Sounds Russian, who's only rated £2 lower in the ratings, I don't think many of the other horses will be able to ever make it to Dusart's level. And I just thought if Cream would always rises to the top, and if it does in this example, Dusart should win the race. But there is big factors against him, as you say. He's run attritional ground, it turned. It might say soft, but we all know it was probably worse than soft by the time it was running. I know it was the first race, but it looked very deep that day. And with a tendency to jump to his left, you just wonder sometimes, is he as good a jumper as he has been jumping at home? Like they say he's brilliant at home, but when he comes to a track, he jumps slightly left. But like I said, his class angle he was a brilliant hurdler when he started, beating a Betfair hurdle winner in Soaring Glory, then came back after a setback in the Grand National meeting in a Grade 1 and finished third to Belfast Banter, the Cheltenham Festival winner that year. His 3 runs over fences this year, I think he's got better and better with each one. As I said, jumped out to his left slightly on the first one, still jumped out to his left Exeter, but won by the 11 lengths. Like, I never thought Dusart, when I looked at him, would be a 3-mile horse, but his stamina is absolutely brilliant and one of his best assets.
I think that's what it's like. Sorry, stop you there. It's a big plus that he stays, but also a worry, because if he stayed and fought a hard race at Cheltenham, then that's what worries me a bit.
This is exactly it, because he's 5th in the Brown Advisory. It's the best form on offer by a long way, but has it taken a lot out of him? And the only thing I think is, even if it might have taken a lot out of him, I don't think anything's good enough, even if it's probably £5 lower than what he should run at, if you know what I mean. It's just such a tough one, because we don't know where this horse is at. But because it's a 7-year-old and only had what 5 races to date, you might think he'll take it in his stride. But again, he is top weight. He is against lesser horses, and I did come down on Dusart in the end. And I think he's got a very good chance, if living up to the horse that we all think he could be. So moving back over to Newbury, it's the Veterans Handicap Chase over close to 3 miles. A very, very tricky event, all these Veterans races. Paul, we'll stick with you to start with. Who did you come down on? Yeah,
this could go. You could have horses here that have no form all year, and then all of a sudden they just show up and they'll win by 20 lengths or something like. There are characters like half of these that said, read you the Racing Post. It was interesting listening to David Dennis. Indy 5 was a good winner last time out. I think he would be a bit more confident if it was another furlong or so. Having said that, 3 miles here at Newbury does take quite a bit of getting. The one I'm going to side with is the Philip Hobbs trained No Comment, who is just 1 victory from 15 starts over fences. He has a bit to find with Indy 5 on that run last time out. He is a hold-up performer, but I think Newbury will suit him. It's a big, long straight. You're about half a mile when you straighten up for home to the finish line. It's a long, long straight. And I think when Kevin Brogan thinks he has to go, he might have to count to 10 and before he does pull the trigger. And I think it'll suit him. Loads of time up that home straight. So it's No Comment for me to get his 2nd victory over fences.
Yeah, like you say, he's only got 1 win in 15, but he could end up bolting up in this. These are the types of races where horses like this do that. And his form overall hasn't been bad in similar races.
No, so running well, like in the feast, a couple of places effort.
Yeah, definitely got a big chance. The one I came down on was the Venetia Williams train, First Figaro. It's obviously a really tough race, but I just came down on a form angle with this one. Very consistent horse in his old age, now 12, placing all 5 of his last 5 runs, winning his last 2 races. Had his first run for over a year at the start of March. Very impressive winner of a very similar event over 3 miles. Then a week later, backed that up at Leicester. When coming on for the run, definitely, and winning by a further 14 lengths. Look, I know a lot of them in this field, 10, 11, 12, and he is £9 higher, but chasing a hat trick I like Ned Fox as an £8 claimer in this race. I think he's a good rider. Yeah, I thought First Figaro chasing the hat-trick's got a really good chance. Frankie, who did you land on?
It's throwing me off a bit now looking at the prices, because I first started with Psychedelic Rock. It was a little bit further up the market, and I quite fancied that until I found the form of Glenn Forza actually finishing first in Psychedelic Rock's most recent race when he came fourth. And at the time, I was thinking Glenn Forza was a better the prices because he was much further down the market. Now they've almost swapped. So my kind of value angle is gone, but I'm still going to stick with Glenn Forza off the back of that run at Musselburgh, winning there by 5 lengths fairly comfortably, and then being stepped up in class into a decent enough handicap. You know, the Greatwood at Newbury, yes, wasn't that impressive, but again, to go and win a race and then to go and be tried in, a competitive handicap suggests that the old boy's got a bit of life in him yet. And I'm just kind of taking a bit of the recent form in the hope that he's still alive and kicking for this off a mark of 133, which is down £1 from last time out and only up a couple from his recent win. So that's kind of where I was trying to look with these veterans, is to find one that is firing at the moment. But as Paul said, there could be one that has been doing nothing and then strikes. But yeah, he looks to be in decent form in his last few runs, and hopefully that can continue into this.
Well, the interesting thing I always think with Glenn Forza, and I've seen him in a couple of these races recently. See, if you take it back, 3 years, just over 3 years, he was running in the Arkle. You know what I mean?
Madness.
He was running in the Arkle for Mick Channon, and now obviously with Charlie Longston. But he was obviously a horse. And back then, when he was a novice, he was a brilliant horse leading up to the Arkle and seeing his rider in the Arkle. But for a horse 3 years later to run in a veterans handicap chase, and he's a 7-1 chance. That's a bit of a fall from grace, isn't it? But if he can be the horse, probably not of old, but somewhere near that level, he'll win this very easily, won't he? But again, a chance. But I think stuff like that with horses, like, it just amazes me sometimes just how much they can fall off the wagon.
Well, he won that Musselburgh handicap off a mark of 129. You wouldn't be going into the Arkle off of that, would you?
No, exactly. But no, it's just a strange one when I look through the card and you look through horses like that. I thought it was very strange. Anyway, moving on, and one of the races of the day on Saturday is the Coral Scottish Champion Hurdle, Grade 2 event. Look, it's probably not, in the comparison to a season, one of the strongest races in the world. But looking at this Saturday and looking at the cards on offer, it probably is one of the strongest races on offer. So, Frankie, we'll stick with you to start with.
Hopefully, we can agree. I'm sticking with West Cork, obviously well fancied at Cheltenham. I quite like the fact that Milkwood, last year's winner, came third in the county and then went on to win this. So it could be a similar story for West Cork, finishing fourth in the county and then hopefully coming in to win this off a marker 142, which seems very fair. You know, that county hurdle was competitive. State Man, which was hyped up as, this graded horse in a handicap, and he delivered. First Street, pretty unexposed. Colonel Mustard was the third horse behind Sir Gerard and Three Stripe Life on his last run before Cheltenham. So the form of that county hurdle, I think, works out very strong. And I'm actually surprised, or maybe there's something in this, but to come here up a marker 142, only up £1 from that county hurdle, I think gives him every chance. So yeah, West Cork, I think he's got a strong chance to win this.
Yeah, I'm absolutely fully behind you on this. West Cork, I think he's got an absolutely great chance. Like you've just said, only going up £1 after finishing fourth in a county, behind, I think, 3 very good horses, especially State Man, who obviously, when we were doing our Cheltenham previews, we talked about as a group, as a graded horse in the handicap, turned out to be now up to about 151, I think, or 152, and that's probably the mark it should have got. Like Colonel Mustard running behind the likes of John Barn, Sir Gerhard, and then was in contention jumping the last and just didn't get home. If you look at the run of West Cork that day, it was absolutely brilliant to get forward. First Street as well, running well in the Betfair Hurdle, and then coming on to this. Off 142 off, only £1 higher. And also, if you look back at his winning the Greatwood, you look at the form of that Greatwood, I've never seen anything like it. It is the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, and 14th have either gone on to win or run well in graded company. I think that's amazing form. Look, even look. I think it was the 7th. Marie's Rock won at the festival, Grade 1. You got, I think, Glory and Fortune was 6th, won a Betfair Hurdle, was running in Grade 1 company. Adagio was 2nd, and even down in 14th, Ballyandy went on to win a race. So the form of that, and that was off a marker 1, 3, 4. You look back at how much West Cork was chucked in that day, and the Greatwood, obviously coming, I think after over 18 months off, it was coming into the race. But I think this West Cork's a very, very good horse, and it'll take something very, very good to beat it. Like Miltwood obviously won the race last year, but if I'm looking at the prices now, West Cork at 3-1 and Miltwood 7-2, getting £8 off it, I think it's a no-brainer personally for me. Obviously, there's others in the field that can go close, but just looking at the top of the market, I think it's strange how the odds are. I'd have West Cork way shorter.
Paul's smiling.
Paul,
not filling me with confidence at all here, James.
No, there is horses lower. There is horses lower that could obviously go close, but I'm just looking from a price perspective at 3-1 or 7-2. I know where I would be putting my money, but Paul, who are you going with?
Yeah, you've made a solid case there for West Cork, but I'm going to side with Team McCain and Hugh with Baracello, who has something to find on the ratings, but has only disappointed once in 11 starts. And his last 2 wins, the second in both races, have both come out and won since at Ascot and Hexham, respectively. He's won 4 of his last 5 starts. And I think he has to go close at a bit of a price here, representing a top team. You know, he's come down south, he's come to Haydock and Warwick and beat his southern counterparts. So I just think at a bit of a price, he has to be there or thereabouts.
Yeah, this is the thing. If Baracello, whatever you call it, he's a winning machine, really, this season. Donald McCain's been a winning machine, really, hasn't he? Like, he can't stop having winners, running at 30% strike rate as we talk now. He's one that I looked at that was going to be the danger personally. At one more for the road, another really nice horse, but I'd be very, very shocked off the season he's had so far if he can go close. But look, we don't know. It's another toughie, but we'll see what happens. So next up is the feature race from Newbury. It's the Grade 2 Mares Novices Handicap Hurdle over 2.5 miles. Another tricky event. We'll stick with you here, Paul. Start us off. Who did we land on?
Yeah, this is tricky. Speech Bubble has probably been doing more wrong than right and still managing to be thereabouts. She hasn't finished out of the first 2 on her last 4 starts for Gavin Sheehan and Noel Williams. Sabrina was a good winner last time out. Harry Cobden teaming up with Paul Nichols has a handy weight of 10 stone 4. But I've gone with the Ollie Murphy train, Corey's Courage. Aidan Coleman takes them out. Corey's Courage is 3 from 3 over hurdles to date. Got the job done without being flashy at Doncaster last time out. There's obviously, you'd imagine there's more to come. She will need to improve again, but of a handy weight of 10 stone 11, and for me, more of an attractive betting proposition at about 5-1.
Yeah, this is the thing in this race. It's tough because you want to go for one at a price, but if you land on a horse, you land on a horse, don't you? And still, around 9-2, you can get at the moment on Corey's Courage. So definitely, even you can take an each way squeak in a race like this and get an extra place with some bookies. Frankie, who did you land on?
Speech Bubble, the one that Paul mentioned first there, as he said, been doing a lot wrong. Racing keenly, sweating up before, not being the most kind of fluent over her hurdles, but still doing well enough. And the most recent run behind Love Envoy went on to win at Cheltenham. That form's got to hold strong. Love Envoy was a similar story. The horse looked like it always had a very good performance in her, but was keen and all over the shop for the first few runs, and turned out, to look a bit of a beast at Cheltenham. Probably got the ground with a heavy ground, but I'd be willing to take a chance. This be a 4th start over hurdles, a little bit more experienced. If you look at the form of that race, Love Envoy went on to win at Cheltenham. Nina the Terrier went to have a crack at Cheltenham. This horse, Speech Bobble, obviously didn't, and we'll come into this nice and fresh and a bit more experienced, and hopefully runs a little bit of a smoother race and could be better than what she has so far.
Yeah, Speech Bubble, it's a bit unoriginal in it with it being the favourite, but I did come down on Speech Bubble as well. Quite a nice bump horse, and has turned into a really nice horse over hurdles, as Paul mentioned, and as you've briefly touched on. Hasn't actually done a lot right, but if you actually look at the form figures and the horse it's ran behind running really well in defeat, it's got the best form coming into the race. Obviously, the reason why it's top weight coming into this. But yeah, for everything you've said, and the Love Envoy form, who obviously went on to win the Grade 2 mares, novices, if learning how to jump well, if travelling slightly better, and being saved, obviously missing Cheltenham and being saved for this, you've got to think like she goes really, really well. So another nice event at Ayr is the Jordan Electric's Future Champion Novices Chase. Very slim pickings of only 5 or 6 runners in the field. Paul, who did you fancy in this one?
I can't see past Manila Drama. I think his closest rival in the betting, Do Your Job, has struggled in a couple of Grade 2s. He's contested to date. Manila Drama was a good winner of a Grade 2 at Haydock 2 starts back. Was no match for Pick Dory in the Grade 2 Pendle Novices Chase at Kempton last time out, but was still there 2 out. Like, we're still in with a chance. I think if that race hasn't left its mark, I think if Manila Drama puts his best foot forward, he's the one they all will have to catch.
Frankie, were you of a similar opinion with Manila Drama?
I am. I've got to hold my hand up here. I had 2, and as you know, it's so hard this weekend. And I saw you two put your selections in for Manila Drama, so I was like, right, that decides it. The 2 I was looking at was Manila Drama and Kilteely Briggs. I quite fancied that. I think was a little bit more of a price when I was looking this morning, maybe a bit short now, 11-2, when Manila Drama you can get 5-2. But I just think the form over the trip is to be noted for Kilteely Briggs. Pulled up at Cheltenham, but in his last 4 runs, it's won twice, and that's been over 2-4 and 2-5. Sorry, this race over 2-4. The other was a 3-miler behind Brave Man's Game and Hoisignon. 2 top class horses and over 3 miles. You can discount that a little bit. So if you look at his form over this trip, Kilteely Briggs has won the last 2 at around 2-4, but as Paul said, Manila Drama looks very, very solid. And even that most recent run behind Pick Dory and Miller's Bank. Pick Dory, James, I've been banging on about that horse, and I think tipped it up every time it's run this season. So I like that form. And Manila Drama did finish 4th and a little bit tired, but did go and take the 2 on up front and maybe paid the price a little bit for it. So if you're just looking at basic form and lengths, it maybe doesn't tell the full story when you watch that race back. So I do think Manila Drama is the one to beat, especially on that form.
Yeah, I think for the first time during this pod, we're having a full house here. I think Manila Drama definitely the one to beat. And you know what? I'll ask you a little question here. This Manila Drama finished 2nd twice in his point to points. Can you name the Cheltenham Festival winner he finished behind?
I could look right now. I've just had a look, but I know I couldn't have told you. But you go on, James.
Yes, finished behind Sir Gerhard. So obviously it was bought for 60,000 after that. We didn't know how good Sir Gerhard would be. No one else did. But Manila Drama finishing 2nd behind Sir Gerhard in that point to points obviously turned out to be a really nice horse as well. I think Manila Drama was the best hurdler out of all these. And I think he's the best chaser as well. Yes, when fading last time in that Grade 2 Pendle Novices Chase, like you said, behind Pick Dory, didn't run his race, I thought. Got there at every chance, but didn't have that finishing stride that he normally has. But if you go back to his run at Haydock, that was more like the Manila Drama we know. That was quite emphatic, I thought. I thought getting back to that form, again, McCain and Hughes' team, I thought probably one of the best bets on the card, really. Very, very tough to beat Manila Drama in that one. So the big race of them all this weekend, and the hardest race to pick of them all is the Coral Scottish Grand National. 24 runners running around for 4 miles. Paul, go and pick the winner.
Well, I'm going to start off with, I backed Cool Mix in the race each way last year at 40-1, and he finished 5th at 28-1. And I think he'll run a big race. He's 10 stone 4 less Alan Doyle's £7 claim, but he's about 12-1, so a bit short for my liking. So I've looked elsewhere. and I've gone with another B Hughes mount. I've gone with Innis Free Lad for David Dennis, who's pretty keen on his chances, although I think the double D is off to Newbury on Saturday afternoon, so he's not going to make the long journey up to Ayr. Innis Free Lad does run his best races when being ridden close to the pace. Overall, his form has been pretty solid. He was a good winner at Plumpton back in January. Finished third in the Eider last time out, which could have been a stepping stone towards the Scottish National. He's by Yates, whose progeny generally get better as they get older. And even though he's a 10-year-old, this is only his 34th career start and only his 17th start over fences. So you'd imagine, I know he's 10, there might be just a bit more to come. And I think B Hughes will certainly be on the front end going to the tapes. And hopefully after that, we'll get a little bit of luck with Innis Free Lad.
Yeah, just before we started this pod, I said to Paul, because obviously we send in the picks before we started talking about them, but I said to Paul, I've been looking at this race since Monday, and I got it down to 3 by Tuesday, and by the end of today, I got it down to 2, and the one I dropped out was Innis Free Lad. Not that I don't fancy it, because I just couldn't have 3 runners in the race, but definitely, I think it's into about 18, 16 to 1 now. It was 25 to 1 at the start of the day. I think he's got a really big chance. But the 2 horses that I am going to side with are, the first one is Win My Wings for the Christian Williams team. This mare has proved this season she's a very thorough stayer, and she's been let loose. We go over these sort of trips, and she's been absolutely brilliant. Looking back slightly before she really went properly chasing like this season. Twice a winner at the back end of last term, Cheltenham in April over 3 Mile 2, and then went over to Compiègne over hurdles and won in France, which was quite a nice move. She needed her first 2 runs this term, got back to form in a big way at Exeter in January and winning a decent 3 Mile handicap chase. Having looked like she always wanted this step up in trip, she went into the Eider handicap chase at Newcastle over 4 Mile Plus, and she looked a very easy winner to me. She's gone up £8. For that, but if you actually look at the jockey on board, it's a really handy £7 claimer, and that basically means that she's £1 higher going into this, which if she runs to the same form and she stays the same, she could be very, very tough to beat, I think. And I personally think, as the Christian Williams at the top of the market with Kitty's like Win My Wings, they should be the other way around. That's just me personally. I think Kitty's Eye's a great horse, but I think Win My Wings should be at the top of the market, and the 13 to 2, 7 to 1 about her at the moment, I think it's a great each way price. Just at a slightly bigger price, around 12, 14 to 1 as we record, is another one for the McNeils. We mentioned a few of their runners during this pod, but the Wolf, very interesting runner, a bit like Win My Wings, is that I almost felt like he needed to go over a trip, and he got that last time out. And his last 2 runs have been his absolute best runs. New Year's Day at Cheltenham, ran out a good second behind Fullback, who many fancied for the Ultima over 3 Mile 2. That was a good handicap event that day. Upton trip over the same trip of the Scottish National. And if you go back and watch that race, it was about 4th, 2 out, and you thought the horses, if they carried on, he'd have absolutely no chance. He was giving the horse that won, Captain Cutterstock, so much weight that day, it was untrue, and he stayed on, lost by half a length. I just think going over a trip, hasn't gone up in the weights too much. I think he's got a really, really good chance. The McNeils, I saw them, they put something up. They're all going to be there at Ayr this weekend, so they've got quite a few runners. I think this lad's got a really good chance. Only up £2. Yeah, I think them 2 for me. I think a lot of extra places on offer, maybe 5 places, 6 places with some bookies. You'd have to go out and check, but at those prices, I'll be betting them each way. Frankie, to finish off, who are you going with?
I'm going to disagree and agree with you. Disagreeing on the Christian Williams runners, I prefer Kitty's out of the 2. I remember being with Christian on that day at Kempton when he had Captain Orr obviously win, and Kitty's come second, and then I'd Win My Wings win over at Newcastle, and they said they expected that horse to get the trip. Kitty's is one that hasn't gone over 4 miles yet, but she's come second so many times, and it's because she's so one-paced. There will be no change of speed over the last whatsoever, but she will keep going and going and going. And I think if she does, over this, a little bit further. She might have just gone 3-7. But she's best at this longer trip. But essentially, the further she goes, the better she'll be. And if you look at her best runs, that one most recently, 3 miles around Kempton, second behind Captain All, that was really strong. And then her best RPR to date was Sandown, 3 miles 4. So her best form comes over further. As I said, she is pretty one-paced, which has kind of left her just staying on into second and not being able to get the better of or get her nose in front. But given the staying trip, I think she's got a great chance. It'd be great for the connections as well. They travel everywhere and watch her. And I was chatting to them after when they come second, and they said we're just sick of coming second. So that'd be brilliant to see. So I disagree with you there, but I agree with you on the Wolf. I think it's got a cracking chance. Again, it looks to do its best work over further, being progressively stepped up last season. It's got better and better, and essentially the further this horse has gone, the better it's got. And I think, the Wolf's got a real strong chance. It's one that's been knocking plenty of seconds, and a few mistakes here and there, and it's kind of one where you're just hoping a clean round of jumping. If things do go right for this horse, it's definitely got the ability. It's had quite a few near misses and a couple of mistakes that's let him down. So I do really like the Wolf as well. If I had to chuck a third in, a massive price, One More Fleury. Absolutely abysmal form most recently, but if you go back to last season at Ayr at this time of year, did win 2 consecutive races. Charlie Todd was on board that day. It was over a further trip than it's been running. So abysmal most recently, but go back to Ayr, same jockey, similar trip, did win a race like this last year, albeit lower class.
I think the thing in this race that the first point of call when looking at any national, Welsh national, Grand National, Scottish national, Irish national, I always look at a horse because I like to go stamina over class in these sort of races. So I want to see a horse that's definitely stayed the trip. And you actually look at some of them. Look, I might be wrong, and you look at your stuff like Stormy Judge has actually got the pedigree for a horse that could stay this trip, but has never ran. So we don't know if Stormy Judge will. You look at the Ferry Master, you could definitely pick him on the case of he will stay the trip, but you can go Ashdown Lad, Fantasticas, Major Dundee. These horses, yes, they could turn out to be a classier horse than some of them what we've mentioned, but we don't know if they stay. And from a punting perspective, if you don't know that, you're already losing the battle. And I just think the horses we've mentioned, we definitely know they'll get the trip. Maybe not the classiest horse in the world, but they'll definitely stay and give you a run for your money. Let's hope anyway. But yeah, Scottish National, as ever, very, very tricky. But hopefully we found some each-way players at a price. So, lads, to finish off, I think one of the trickiest weeks we can probably all agree from a punting perspective on ITV. But I'm going to ask you both for your nap of the Saturday, please. Paul, we'll start with you.
I'm going to go, Manila Drama. I think he'll win. I think he's solid. I think he'll win. But, fuck it, I'm going to stick with Innisfree Lad in the big one. All in all.
Go for it. I was going to let you boys have Manila Drama. I thought I can't really put that down as my nap after saying I was undecided. So I'm going to leave that one alone as well. For me, it'd have to be West Cork. Maybe I've nicked that one off you there, James. But West Cork in the Scottish Champion Hurdle, I think, very, very good chance.
Well, I was going to go West Cork, so I thought, you lot were going to go Manila Drama, but I'll now go Manila Drama. So, I think West Cork Manila Drama double would probably be my play this weekend. But yeah, West Cork definitely got a chance. But yeah, like you say, Paul, Manila Drama, solid chance.
Solid.
So lads, thanks for all the picks, thanks for all the insight. Hopefully, we found some winners for you guys watching across Saturday. Please be sure to like this video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe to the Winners Enclosure channel with plenty of content coming up prior to the Grand National. And lads, cheers again. Hopefully, we've found some winners out of what looks a very, very tricky week. So cheers, lads.
I mean, we've chucked in 3 selections on most, haven't we? So, so if none of them win, we're in trouble.
That's how hard it is. But no, lads, thanks for all the insight and cheers again.